Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, a video game show where I'm joined every week by someone who is not afraid, and neither is she petrified. My co-host, Sema. Hello there, Sema.
I get it, because I shall survive.
You shall survive. Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
Doing great. It's 2025. I don't know if you knew that. Our last two shows.
Wow.
And now this show again is very 2025 focused. 2 weeks ago, we were just mentioning this in the pre-show. 2 weeks ago was kind of those big AAA titles and our predictions for what's going to be Game of the Year for 2025. Last week went for an hour and 45 minutes on 2025 MMO roadmaps, what's changing with our favorite MMOs, what new MMOs are on the horizon. And this week, survival games. I'm a big survival fan. We'll try to be a little more concise this episode. I know that's not like the bulk of our audience isn't as much into survival as I am, but I am. So you're getting it anyway.
Right.
All right. So why don't we dive right into it? Let's jump right into it.
I want to survive.
Say it again.
I want to survive.
Louder.
I want to survive.
Come on.
I want to survive.
Like you mean it.
I want to survive.
Louder.
I want to survive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Viva La Dirt League and their really cool, fun set of videos on survival games. All of like the memes.
It's called Survival Logic.
Yes, survival logic. They have a whole bunch of like Witcher logic, weird stuff in the Witcher game, but survival logic. And if you play a lot of survival games, it's modeled after the things that you'll do and see in Rust and Ark and those kind of games, and they hit on all the high points in their clever way that they always do.
And what you accept as normal in a game when it's really a little bit bizarre.
Punching a tree to get wood and
right. Yes.
Oh my God! I made a hatchet. Oh, it broke. We'll make another one. I don't know how. What did you do? I don't know. I have no idea how this works.
Except I'm going, how do I get this hatchet into my hand?
Yeah. Oops, I punched Max again in the face.
Now I need to do it with a hatchet.
How many times did that happen in Ark?
Every game.
Shout out to them also. They have a new series they started, which is about a AAA video game company, MMO company, and it's called like Tempest or something. It's it's very obviously modeled after the idea of Blizzard. They're not necessarily just making fun of Blizzard, but they're making fun of MMO development in general, and it's pretty hilarious. It's pretty funny too. I think they only have like 3 of those up.
Yeah. Although they're going down this loot box plot ways now, which isn't really Blizzard.
Oh, well, yeah, that's why I figured they're just going to expand out into any kind of like the memes and the things that they could pick out of any kind of online genres.
Yeah.
I didn't see their latest one.
On Apple TV, which is called Mythic Quest, which is a similar idea. It's a video game development company, and
that one's been out for a little while too, hasn't it?
Yeah, because the reason I started watching it, I hadn't heard anything about it, but this year I guess season 3 is starting or has arrived, and so I started back with season 1. But so far, it's basically, I don't know. I've watched 2 episodes. It's kind of growing on me a little bit, the characters and stuff, but my overall response is it's a lot of stereotypes about what people think go on inside a video game company. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll get more real, as the kids say.
Yeah, exactly. Survival games. The way we're going to break this down, similar to what we did with the MMO stuff, is there will be some of the big rocks that I care about a lot that I'm focused on. A second tier that I will potentially even be playing again, that are kind of fun. Then after the break, we'll do some of what's coming in the future and what maybe is existing, but I haven't played yet, that I might play in 2025. And then a look at, some things that may not even be coming in 2025 or until 2026 or 2027. So we'll see how those go as well. But there's plenty that I'm excited about in this genre, of course. So top of the mind is a game No Man's Sky, which has always sort of skirted the edge. I wouldn't call this necessarily, even myself, I wouldn't think of it as survival. It kind of is, though. And you can set it to survival mode, and it's definitely survival. In the same way that Minecraft, which I always discount, you can play that as survival also. It wasn't how it was originally developed, and I don't think that's originally how No Man's Sky really was developed. It's more exploration, and it's infinite exploration. But you can play it very survival-ish. It falls into the genre in a lot of lists. I'll sort of like group it in and lump it in, and I'll talk about it now because I love the game and I want to talk about it. So what is happening with No Man's Sky in 2025? Well, as we know with Hello Games, we don't know. They won't tell us. They don't have roadmaps. Sean Murray, 2 days before a new update is coming and going to be released, puts a single emoji on the social networks, and that's it. That's how he says that something new is coming. What we do know is that they have said they're not nearly complete on No Man's Sky. We do expect to be seeing more things. In fact, one of the updates they had out towards the end of last year was called the Worlds Update Part 1, with which you would expect that means, and people don't know exactly what it means, but you would expect there's at least going to be a Part 2, if not more than Part 2. The other thing that we kind of got the expectation of and was alluded to very obliquely by the development team was they're continuing to do a lot of work on something we'll talk about in the second half of the show, Light No Fire, new game. But some of that tech may be like being backported or bleeding back into No Man's Sky, and that's some of what we might have just seen in Worlds Part 1. So Worlds Part 1, we expect to see a Worlds Part 2, for example. The other thing they've been doing a ton of in 2024, which they're probably pretty solid on now, is all of the porting to other platforms. So I think they're on all the consoles now. And by the end of the year, they even added cloud save, cross save to all of those consoles. So you can be playing one game across multiple, your saves across multiple consoles. All that stuff is really solid right now, and I think is really in good shape. So that's going to open them up to be able to be, again, focusing back on core content development and whatever else the studio has working on, which we'll talk about later. Next up in things that I play a lot of, and in fact, in the past couple of weeks, I've been playing a ton of, that will have a bunch of updates, and we do have a roadmap for, is Ark. So this is Ark Survival Ascended, or Ark Remastered, you could kind of think of it as. So this is all Ark 1. And what they've been doing over the course of the past year or so is taking all of Ark 1 and remastering it in Unreal 5. They're doing an okay job of that. I like it, but the game itself and the quality it's a little janky. Ark has always been kind of janky. There's always places you fall through the map. There's always weird things that the dinos are doing.
Lovable kind of way.
If you know how to play within those the boundaries of those bugs, you have a ton of fun. And there are thousands and thousands of players that are playing constantly.
But I mean, can't you say that about every game? I mean, I realize there's a degree, but I've noticed even in WoW, which has got a huge development staff, that there's just things you get used to.
Yeah, true.
With.
And arguably, WoW is one of the top, some of the highest quality content. But
yeah,
Ark is definitely way down there.
It is in its own class. I agree, but it is kind of lovable.
Yeah, I really like it. And as far as survival games go, it's the kind of survival game I really, really like, where it's very sandboxy, but there's still an objective if you want to do it. There's a reason you'll be unlocking new technology and going after bigger and bigger dinosaurs and breeding them up into being more and more dangerous. If you play PvP, and a lot of people do, that's one thing that tends to work in an interesting way in Ark. I don't do that at all. And I'm still very invested in what the roadmap of things to do is, the sort of like the progression is in the game, because there's the big bosses. So you could be going after those big bosses. So you want to first you got to get the small dinosaur so you can tame up the medium dinosaur, so you can tame up the big dinosaur, so you can, then you got to unlock the wood technology so you can unlock the stone technology so you can unlock the metal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so you can kill the big thing at the end. And usually there's like 3 big things and then like the giant master boss. And all of the maps kind of work that way. And then the other thing that they do is what they were doing in 2024, and they're going to continue in 2025, is the maps. So the way Ark first released way back, it's 10 years ago now, is there was a single map, it was called the Island, and then they started adding new maps on. So the story of Ark is these Ark ships that are floating around Earth that have these dinosaurs in them for reasons, and there's story and lore behind that. But the additional maps might have been a different Ark ship that you ended up going to that was like in a state of decay, or it was corrupted in a different way, or different things were happening. And then a couple, it's very open to mods, a couple very creative groups of people started putting together their own maps, and those ended up becoming official maps to some degree. Those are getting remastered as part of the roadmap. So what we're seeing in 2025 roadmap is we're getting more of those that are coming out. April is one called Ragnarok, which sort of steps outside of the core lore and gets you more of sort of like that Viking, Valheim bunch of stuff associated with it. And then a map called Valguero, which I'm actually not very familiar with. In fact, I don't know what Valguero is. That'll be a fun one for me to explore. I'm having a lot of fun because I get to try a lot of these that I never played before. I played a ton of the Island. I played a ton of a fan-made map that became an official map, which is coming actually in 2026, which is remastered as Fjordur, which again is more Viking-ish. I don't know how it's different than Ragnarok, but I guess I'll find that out. 2 other big maps, though, that are coming this year in 2025. No, actually, they're not coming until 2026, is Genesis. Genesis 1 and 2. So Genesis 1 and 2 sort of get to a transition point in the lore. So 2025 is going to have Ragnarok, a new premium map that we've never seen before in June. By August, we'll get Valguero. And we're getting a new battle. They're kind of battle passes, which are done really cool. You're getting content and new features in the game. Like this map that just came out, Extinction, came with an addition to the battle pass. And the battle pass was like you paid like $20 and you just get it. You don't like pay over time. It's not a subscription. You pay $20 and you get it. And then each of the 3 big maps that came out this past year, including Extinction, got this whole set of new features and new tech to unlock. And in this one, it's vehicles. It's Mad Max style vehicles. And you assemble your vehicles. You can drive your Mad Max vehicles around the world and help you sort of like explore and tame dinosaurs and things like that. So there's a new one of those battle passes that will be starting in 2026, along with Genesis 1 and 2, that will be called Bob's True Tales. Bob's Tall Tales was the first battle pass. So we'll be getting more of that kind of stuff coming. But as you can hear, this stretching out from 2025 into 2026, it's a long bout of this remaster. And it's much longer than people expected when they first said they were going to do a remaster. So it's going to take a long time. And associated with that is, again, something else that we'll talk about in the second half. In theory, they've been working on Ark 2 for a while now, potentially 5 years. In fact, they expected I think their initial, I think they announced it in like 2019 or 2020 and said it was going to launch in 2022. No way. And now they've just extended it again. As you can hear from this, it sounds like maybe not even in 2026. So we'll see. But we'll talk more about Ark 2 after the second half of the show also. And then the one other thing for Ark, which I have not seen again because it's in yet another service, streaming service, which I don't have and don't want to get, but maybe I'll subscribe because when the next map comes out and I get all excited about Ark again, I'll subscribe and watch the Ark animated series on Paramount Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Is it only 6 episodes? Looks like 6 episodes in season 1, 6 full episodes. I'm interested. I would watch it, but I don't want to watch Paramount Plus. And what service did you say that the video game show you were just talking about was on? Apple?
Yeah, Apple. But
Yeah.
yes, that's Charlie Stask. Yeah, that is the Charlie Day show.
Yeah, so that's on Apple, which I don't have. This is on Paramount Plus, which I don't have. Guys, get it all back into remember the dream of
Yeah.
of just one streaming service to rule them all? One streaming service to find them?
Now the dream was to cut cable.
Yes. And just to be able to have, well, my dream was back in the day when it was just Netflix, for there to be one. And, someday everything will just be on Netflix and we'll just pay
No, let me
20
back
bucks
it
a
up.
month.
Back it up. The dream was a la carte.
Mm.
Like
That was
that's
never
why
my
we
dream.
wanted. That's why we wanted to. No, we wanted to be. We didn't want to have to pay for things on cable. That's why we wanted to cut the cable. So we didn't want to pay for sports if we weren't watching sports. Didn't want to
Right.
pay for.
But there was a little period of time when like every show and every movie was going on to Netflix before there was a Hulu, before there was a Paramount Plus, before there was any of the other things. And that it just so my hope, my vision, my dream at that point was just let Netflix just get all of the content. Wouldn't that be cool? I never wanted a la carte because that's just
No,
you know,
I'm talking before Netflix.
I know. And the smart cable services, some of them, again, there was tons of those and tons of different ways to do it, started to do a la carte themselves. But, a la carte was like, you could pay 90% of the cost for 10% of the content and not get the sports, but you get a little bit of a discount, or you can pay $5 more and get everything anyway. The a la carte never worked really well.
It wasn't true. Yeah.
But I don't have those services, so maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll watch the ARC animated series. We'll see how that goes.
I'm okay with it the way it is because I just subscribe if I want to watch a show and then cancel.
And I don't have to buy each of the bits of content separately, at least. So it's not that a la carte that way, although you could. And in some cases I do. I can't say I don't because I do use Prime that way where I like just buy a series. But subscribing to Paramount Plus for 1 month and just watching this and then shutting it off, that's actually not a bad deal. So
right. That. And the secret, is that you buy the 1 month and you cancel all in the same session.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I do that with video games, with MMOs too. Just buy the month and cancel. And it's really a great way to, like Epic's game store, ton of content that you could play in a month. There's so many ways to do that, but yes, do it all at once. Do it in the same moment. Do it just buy it.
And I did
it lasts for a month and you got it.
And it's to their advantage too, because I did that with Peacock and I ended up finding things that I wanted to watch. And 6 months later, I'm still subscribed to Peacock.
That's how they get you. Yeah.
Well, but I feel like it was my decision because I decided to watch this thing and I didn't, I uncanceled.
Right. Exactly.
And then I use kind of Prime sounds like you do too. Prime's kind of my safety net. Like if there's a movie that I want to see, it's either going to be on Prime or I can rent it on Prime.
Yes. All right. Enough about streaming services. We do have about 1,000 more survival games to talk about. So now let's get into there's two more big ones that I like, but this one we've played together, Sema. Why don't you tell me what's going on with Enshrouded?
So Enshrouded is this game that has its own story and its own atmosphere. So like most survival games, you start out, with nothing, but you're in this very hostile environment where this pestilential fog has taken over, and there's also bad guys that not bad guys, but like other things that want to kill you. So you have to contend with all that while you're, doing your initial building of your base but there's a story that leads you through. So you start to find, as you're doing things, you start to find objects that lead you to other parts of the story, and you ultimately are going to be uncovering more and more and more of the reason of why where you are has been taken over by this evil fog.
Yeah. The Shroud.
The Shroud. Yes, and that's where the title comes from. So, I feel like as a game, it's a really good game. For me, everything was pretty intuitive how it worked. The gameplay was very smooth. It looks very nice, although it's not like I wouldn't call it like brain-shatteringly unique or anything. But it still looks very nice.
I
It
do
has
count it
more of
as unique. It's definitely not. It's not. It doesn't look like an Unreal 5, average asset. It's stylized. Everything.
yeah,
Everything is unique and stylized, which I
right. But
appreciate.
when you see like the main picture of it, it's a wizard, a warrior, and a rogue.
Yeah. True. True.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
Um,
and with a medieval village and blah blah blah.
right. And castles and
Yep.
um but it is an action RPG type of combat. But still, I mean, not it still worked really well, I thought.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
liked it.
a lot that sounds funny, but that's for people who gravitate toward that style of combat, it works well. Um, the fact that I could even use it is what I mean, because I don't gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
It's voxel-based building, which I didn't get too much into the building, so I'll let you talk about your feelings on that. But that can lead to something that's way more freeing and creative than some other building systems.
Yes. So
And then I also felt like Enshrouded as a game was like, even though there was a story pulling you forward, it did feel like a whole world that you could sort of live in, sort of like you get the feeling when you're in an MMO. So I thought that was interesting.
right. It it is a very it's a bigger and bigger world that they're starting to sort of reveal too. So it went into early access early last year, and they've just been adding more and more. I mean, this studio is just out of control in a good way. Continuing to add features, continuing to like listen to the community, be very responsive about like what would be cool to add to the game.
And big features too. I mean,
Yeah, and like big zones, and the zones have like a lot of verticality. You're like
and they
going,
have right, and they have their own personalities, the zones, or well, they're biomes really.
yeah, biomes and these depths. Like you go down into this dungeon, and it's like multiple sort of tiers of depth, and you've got like a glider, so you can like be gliding down. You said the action combat, it's smooth, it's nice. Action combat, it can be hard, and again, I'm not going to say Souls like, but it can be sort of like that action combat boss fighting where you got to like be blocking and dodging and learn the attacks of the bosses. There are sort of like bosses and mini bosses to go and fight. But again, works really well. Oh, the grapples, the kind of like jumping puzzles where you got to like use your grapple to get around and use your glider. But the voxel world allows you to do things like dig into the ground, or in the dungeons, there's a big opportunity to use the voxel destruction to cut into the wall. And so some of the puzzles to like get around in the dungeon and find your way through the dungeon include hacking your way through different walls that where you think something might be behind there, and maybe discovering a treasure chest, or maybe discovering a route around or through where you thought you weren't able to get to. So I really like the destructibility of the environment, the voxel building, and then the other way that the building system works really well and sort of like that voxel-ishness is it provides them the opportunity to have a ton of different building parts in a lot of really kind of like unique and different shapes that they can put together. So some of the fun of the building is snapping these building parts together to build your little castle or house or whatever you want. But you can go and find more and new and interesting materials out in the world and use those to build it. So it doesn't just have to be wood or stone. They've got like these fungal bricks because there's this mushroom zone that you found. And so you can use those fungal bricks that give you cool effects that build your house. So yeah, ton going on. And their roadmap, it looks like they're going to do a ton in 2025 still, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I kind of was alluding to with the big features. They're adding things like, musical instruments.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have to hear more about that but I mean, what a cool, I mean, that's more games should have that.
they added this snow zone where where like there's different like waist deep snow that makes it really hard to walk through it, but visually again, like you're walking through the snow, you're like cutting a snowdrift through it. Musical instruments, they're adding that to the game. And they keep asking the community,
Animal farming, whatever that means.
yeah, animal farming, bring animals back. Sure, we'll add that to the game. Why not? But it's all like really high quality, high class stuff. So I really appreciate what they're doing. It's Keen Games. I believe they're a German
Yeah, they are German.
company, and they're really putting their heart and souls into this. It seems like something they plan on doing for the long term, which is going to make it really, really interesting. They keep saying that a new weather system, and I keep hearing So I Married an Axe Murderer in my head when a new weather system. It's got a huge noggin. It's like an orange on a toothpick. It's got its own weather system.
I'm really rooting for this game. There's so much to like about it, and the company itself, like you were saying, just so much to like about them.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish them all the success.
Exactly. And I can't wait to get back in here and play it at some point. It's one of those ones where I played it right away as soon as it hit early access. And now I want to wait a little bit and just sort of like let things pile up a little bit and then jump back in. So that's going to be really fun to do with this one and maybe the next one, which I almost jumped back into this morning, literally.
This is another one that has like a lovability factor. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go
this
ahead.
next one, Valheim. So Valheim's been around for a while. Coffee Stain's been working hard on it. It started just as like a couple people that sort of like did it initially, and this was 2021 was initial early access for Valheim. So it's been in development for a while now. It's still early access, and their plan is it's going to be early access until they finish all of the biomes, the quote unquote biomes. So what we got in 2024 was 2 of the other major biomes. And with each biome comes sort of like another tier of difficulty. It gets harder and harder. Another tier of rewards, sort of like technology and metals or to technology and materials and abilities potentially. So we got Mistlands that came, and Mistlands actually also brought magic. So you didn't have any kind of magic abilities in the game, but that brought that to the table. And then late in the year, we got Ashlands. So Ashlands again, like a hellish zone, very difficult to even get to. I guess you gotta like really prepare for your first foray into Ashlands because everything wants to kill you and can like one-shot you. And your boat, as you sail it there, just like melts in the boiling waters as you approach it. So I don't know how you're supposed to get there. And then there's one more biome. So that happened in 2024. In 2025, they've got the Deep North that in theory will be the final biome, which will lead to the 1.0 release and potentially the end of development of major biomes and content for the game. And then we'll see. We'll see what they're going to do next. I think they kind of seem to be treating it like that's the end of the major content development, but maybe they'll do like feature refinement, more features and that kind of thing over time. Or maybe they'll go off and work on something else. Maybe it'll be done and maybe that's okay. In fact, we're going to talk about a game in a second where that's kind of happening and it's great. But yeah, so big game. Our gaming community, LA Act Est, someone I think Fez in there just stood up another Valheim server because people have been chomping at the bit to get back in there. I nearly jumped in over the weekend. And again, really, literally this morning, I looked up the IP address to connect to the server and nearly clicked that button. But game development was
Real
calling
life.
to me. I literally did, over the course of about 3 days, I think I did almost 30 hours of game dev over the weekend. And we got a ton of interesting things done on Garden and a Goat. And that was because I wasn't playing Ark all weekend. And I know if I jump into Valheim, I will blow another weekend and will be 20 hours behind where it could have been. Again, maybe that's fine. And all work and no play makes Jeff a dull boy. So I may do it anyway and jump into a little Valheim or get back into, keep my dinos are still there in Extinction. I got far enough so I saw everything I wanted to see in Extinction, but I haven't like killed any of the bosses or anything. So definitely could go back there. But the game is in an interesting point. We're really getting deeper and deeper into that initial gameplay loop. So that's fun. That's it's story for a different time. Valheim, nearly played it this morning. May play it this weekend. We've got a group with a server, private server. Nazrai has stood up private servers before for Valheim. I kind of wanted to wait till Deep North came out, but Deep North might not come out until the end of the year. So I kind of have the itch to jump back into this or another one or two that are on the list. But because people are in there playing, you said, Sema, it's like co-op. They describe it as a co-op experience, Enshrouded. And I don't think Enshrouded, playing Enshrouded solo felt great to me. Playing Valheim solo feels great to me. Playing Ark solo feels fine to me. Playing it with friends feels better. And nobody else is playing Ark right now out of our groups. Nobody in the new Overlord servers. It was joined. It's a public server for new Overlords, but nobody happened to join this round to jump in that map. And because we've got a couple people in there, like Fez, who's super cool, that was another reason I was thinking, I'm having fun in Ark, but what if there are people around? Even if you play by yourself, having other people, just like a couple other, known people, friends on the server to like show off your stuff to.
Right.
It's a big piece of it. It's a fun part of it. So who knows? Maybe I'll get into that. Or maybe we'll pull somebody else into another game. There's a couple others that I was pinging Corley on one that we'll talk about in just a couple minutes too. So yeah, Valheim looking really good. How about this next one on the list? This is another one that we played together. That's still alive despite what could have happened to it. Pal World. Tell me about Pal World, Sema.
Yeah, we did play Pal World, and I very much like some of the aspects of it. I liked the pals. I liked the idea of collecting the pals. I liked the idea of the pals roaming around and doing stuff in your base. But I didn't really fall in love with the overall game. But basically the idea is you capture these Pokemon inspired. You're showing them now, yeah, and they can do work for you.
Yep.
And they can fight. They can fight with you.
You can ride them, they can do work for you, you can breed them.
It's a very adorable look.
Yeah.
So some people had against it that it was, very definitely used a lot of the ideas from the actual Pokemon game, but I didn't grow up with Pokemon. So I didn't have that, betrayal feeling
right
that some people had. And
neither did
Nintendo. Yeah, and Nintendo was pretty much okay with that aspect of it too. They have ended up suing them over some mechanics, which is another whole story, but not the look.
Right. And that it somewhat seemed to have resolved itself. So they did get sued. Mm-hmm. It was over the Pokeball mechanic. They have literal Pokeballs that you throw at the animals to catch them, and you're catching them at Pokeballs. So,
and also to summon them when you...
Yep. You carry them around in the Pokeballs. You throw them out. They sued Niantic, or who's the company?
Pocket Pair.
Pocket Pair. Yeah, they sued Pocket Pair, and it was a big deal. And everybody was like, "Oh, Pocket Pair is going to
you're
going out of business. You're getting the what for?" It seems I think they ended up the way it all shook out is they sued him for like $10,000, which is basically nothing.
But and they would have to stop doing it.
Right. But
which is the bigger thing.
So to me, to some degree, it almost seemed like a little bit of an IP protection kind of move on Nintendo's part. Like they didn't really care what Pocket Pair was doing, but they couldn't just do nothing, because in the same way, it doesn't really work this way for this kind of patent protection, but for copyright protection, or trademark protection, if you don't defend your trademarks when things come up, you can just lose your trademark de facto.
Right.
Because if everybody starts calling their bathroom tissue paper Kleenex, well, Kleenex doesn't sue, then fine. If this is all just called Kleenex now, and we all copy our copies on Xerox machines, and we all put Q-tips in our ears. No, I'm sorry. Those are cotton swabs and tissue. So it almost seemed like a little bit like that. Like Nintendo was saying, "Yeah, we don't really care, but okay, send out the lawyers. Just be nice about it. Just make a showing." And Pocket Pair is still alive and doing their thing.
And so is saying Kleenex and Q-tips.
Well, we can say whatever we want.
Right. But I mean, beyond that too, if you go any kind of search, if you say Kleenex, you'll get every brand of facial tissue.
Yes. Yeah. Now they can't put Kleenex on their boxes.
No.
But
they don't need
we
to.
know what it is. They've lost the rights to their trademark to some degree.
Right.
But yeah. So fun. Looks fun. What do you think they're going to be doing in 2025, Sema?
I don't know, ports.
I think, yeah, I think that too. I think they're going to be focused on shoring up their ports. So, except to the Switch, they're not going to be ported to the Switch.
Right. Possibly not to the Switch.
Obviously.
Although, I mean, if they're big enough, Nintendo will be like, oh, do we really want to lose that business?
Nintendo doesn't care. Nintendo will lose the business. Nintendo's the worst.
And maybe even a mobile version.
I could see
but
that.
Maybe not in 2025, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where they're at. I think they'll continue to be working on this. I think it's still a focus for them. I haven't seen like a bunch of big items on their roadmap. But those ports, except for Switch, I think may be the big place that they continue to shore up, continue to do work on, and continue to make their game better and better. All right. Another fun one that I got into right away at Early Access, which has been doing another one that's been continued to develop quite a bit, is V Rising. V Rising is continuing to get a bunch of updates. I played it in Early Access at launch. I came back to it about the middle of last year in 2024, and a ton of stuff had been added. And again, I played through it quite a bit. I didn't exhaust the content because it gets very hard by the end. It's very action combat with tons of bosses, and that's a really fun part of the progression in V Rising is each of those bosses that they keep adding on and different technology to gear up and get through all of those. But there's like 50. And there's like kind of like it's like tiers of mini bosses and like chapters full of mini bosses, like 10 chapters of 5 bosses each, or 5 chapters of 10 bosses each. Maybe it's not 50, but it is like 35 at least. They seem to continue to be cooking along as a studio and dedicated to this for the long term. They did just put out a dev update in the middle of December where they talked about what they've been doing so far. They are doing sort of like seasonal content. They're doing, continue to do cosmetic stuff around the game. And then their content is just getting more and more solid and polished and really, really fun. So that's another one I could see looking to get. And they hit 1.0 in 2024. And that was fun to see. And that's when I went back to it. Yeah. So when it hit 1.0, that's when I jumped back in. So we'll see what they do in 2025. I expect them to continue to be developing it as well, and be another opportunity for excursions back into fun games that have been well developed and are really, really high quality. I would say, if in terms of almost like the top-down MOBA, it's almost MOBA style action combat in V Rising, done really, really well in my view.
And also what I remember when you were playing it is that you really liked what you were able to build.
Yes, their building system is a little more unique, and it's more completely formed pieces, like a wall with an archway and metal bars in it and crenellations on the top, but really nice looking And when you're snapping these things together, and they snap together really well and dynamically, so you can, but you are kind of limited then in what you can put together because you don't have like free placement. However, what that gets you is really interesting looking in-universe, fitting the art theme, really cool looking buildings and castles. And then everything that you build, the rooms that you build give bonuses to the machines and crafting tables that you put in those rooms. And that was a really fun part of the system too. So there's a reason to build, there's a reason to build more, there's a reason to build the particular types of rooms, to be putting your crafting tables into those. And yeah, that was a great part of V-Rising. Yeah. So I hope to see more. And I do expect to just, when they have another big release, end up back there as well. It's just very stylish, well-formed game as always. Yeah, so they had the 1.0 launch and they had sort of like their updated launch trailers. I think the graphics are really, really good. And their action combat is, I would count as some of the best in class. Stunlock Studios got experienced in doing like brawler action combat games before they ever started making this game. And they brought all of that technology and all of that experience into this. So they had that going for them before they even got into this. So all of the kind of interesting abilities and the ability progression trees and all of that is really strong in this game. They've got that little steampunky land. Forster saying the last boss in V-Rising nearly broke him. It does get almost Souls-like in that, yeah, you'd expect to like die multiple times to learn the bosses. And I didn't get through the last boss. I didn't kill Dracula, for example. I killed a lot of them though. I got pretty far when I went back up for 1.0. So that's V-Rising. It's another one. How we doing on time? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit long. But we're doing good.
You think?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We're almost done with about 3 more up until we get to the break. We'll go faster and faster as we go through these next ones. This next one is one I pinged Corley on because Rust is something that Corley got me into. In fact, we've had him on the show to talk about Rust. And Rust has a new release. They have releases all the time. So they've been doing a great job for many years now in 11 years of development in Rust. In fact, they just put out a 11-year anniversary video at the end of the year. Over 325 million game sessions in 2024, 40 million hours played, 5.5 million unique players. This is a huge game. Tons of people play it. And one of the reasons people play it, like on the official servers and things like that, is it's very seasonal. So you play it for a while, then they wipe the worlds, you start over from scratch. And for a lot of people that play survival games, that's a really fun way to do it. For a lot of people that play PvP, which Rust is very PvP centric, you don't have to play it that way. And we play on private servers. I've played on private servers where there's been no PvP. But the core of Rust is around PvP and like sieging each other's bases and fighting each other out in the world and that kind of thing. Tons of that kind of thing going on. Wiping the world completely and starting from scratch and everybody starting on a level playing field. And that rush of day one, what am I going to do to get myself situated in the world and get my little base made and protect myself overnight so all my stuff doesn't get wiped out, or it does get wiped out and then I start over, but a little bit ahead on day 2 and all of that kind of thing. That's a fun part of Rust. And that's what keeps them going. That's sort of like been their seasonal schedule for years now. With each of the seasons, they also add new technology. They added helicopters one season. They add new weapons. They add new ways that I think they're adding new boats to the game so you can go out onto the water more. On February 6th, they're adding a new update and a new season, and it's going to be a primitive update. Swords and shields and castles and siege equipment and trebuchets. That's way outside the bounds of what Rust has done in the past. And I don't know exactly how it's going to work. Like if you can't use like guns and stuff in the new update, but right away I pinged Corley on it and said, so what's the deal with this? And Are we going? Are we doing this? So we'll see. That may be coming on the 6th, and I may be jumping in with Corley and whoever else wants to on the new Overlord server. I've got a couple people in AIE that tend to jump in, just a few, but might be a fun way to experience Rust in a whole new way coming on February 6th. So congrats to Rust. I have jumped in there a few times over the years, and it is, you could really feel the edges of where it's built to be a PvP game. So it's less fun of a creative world to live in as some of the other survival games. But if you like PvP and that kind of game, it's really one of the best in class in terms of a PvP survival game. It's cool. Even quicker because there's slightly less to say, but still out there and being developed, but probably maybe a little less focus on development, maybe because this studio has other things on their mind right now. Conan Exiles. So
Right.
Funcom brings Conan Exiles to the table. They continue to develop it, bring interesting things. They've had updates in the past year. They add features as well to each of the updates. So the updates are a little bit of like story and new bosses and then like additional maybe like features or skill trees. So now we've got like sorcery and magic, and now you've got to like do things to unlock sorcery and new companions to go and find, and quote unquote companions. I think this is the bones of it are a great game. I played a lot of it. I did one foray into Conan Exiles. I really, really liked the game, except for all the slavery.
Yeah.
And human sacrifice and cannibalism.
Right.
It just goes pretty far into that. I think they could have spun it differently. They didn't have to, but they really wanted to be edgy about it, and they wanted like it to be slavery. And you go and you need to find these workers for your base, and you go and find like in fact you want to seek out. You can like seek out named versions of these NPCs and special versions of the NPCs with special abilities. Like you need a blacksmith, so you're gonna go get a blacksmith. Well, you whack them on the head, you drag them behind your horse with chains, and you put them on the wheel of pain, which is just it's like a mill wheel where they walk around in a circle, pushing the wheel all day until they're broken. And then you can tell them what to do and put them to work in your base. So it just feels bad. You can have like a headcanon where they become your friends.
I'm the nice slave master.
Right. I wish they had a way to like go out and confront them, and maybe if you get into a fight with them and you win the fight, they come to respect you and will elect to join you, or maybe you even have to go through a little bit more tribulations to get them to like join you and join them up with your tribe. Because the opening cinematic of Conan Exiles is super cool. You're like strapped to a post, left to die in the desert, and Conan comes along and cuts you down, throws like a blade at your feet, and says, "Go survive." And it's like such a cool moment and such cool framing. Why couldn't you be that to the other NPCs in the game? I've said that before when I've talked about Conan Exiles. Anyway, Funcom's continuing to develop it, but maybe their focus is a little bit on other things, which we'll be talking about after the break. So while I think it's a really good game, if you can get your head canon around, or maybe if you don't mind, which then don't admit to it, but if you can get around the slavery and the cannibalism and the human sacrifice, then really, really good game. There's some base defense and like PvE base defense stuff that I think works really well, and building works really well in this game, and it's really cool. Fun to play with friends too. Two more before the break. One other that we talked about relatively recently, so I'll go over relatively quick, is Once Human. Once Human, I don't understand as much about their roadmap because most of it is not, most of their dev stream is not in a language that I speak, but they're doing a ton. And Once Human was a really fun game to play. I really respect what they did with Once Human. I really like the ideas they brought to the table. I really like the idea of a little bit more of a futuristic, future tech, it's kind of a zombie survival game, which I don't tend to like. And there's a lot of good zombie games out there that I haven't even played because it's just sort of like a zombie games. But the zombies in this game are like tech zombies, which are really interesting. They're sort of like infected with technology, or the technology itself is coming to life. And you got to like fight that a little bit, try to figure out what's going on. And then there's almost like a Pokemon aspect built into it, where you're capturing these little like spirit creatures that you could put to work for you in your base. They become your friends and pets and run around with you, give you abilities. And then there's building that works really well, crafting that works well. And it's very community oriented as well. It's sort of like moderately multiplayer, in that you get on these servers with lots of people, potentially a bunch of people around, and it still works. And it's not, it's not out for blood. It's not PvP. It's not, free for all. I really liked my time in Once Human and could see going back and trying more. They do have a roadmap out. And let's see, I think I have a freeze frame in the dev stream of where that roadmap hit. Yeah, here it is. So they do have a big development plan. Go back. I said pause. They do have a development roadmap for all of 2025, a bunch of new things that they want to be releasing. They will have a mobile release coming by April, they claim. They have all of these new sort of like scenarios, which are sort of like the dungeons that you'll be able to do with other people, new features being added. So this is going to continue to be developed as well, which I think is good. It fits an interesting place in the survival genre. It's not another primitive one. It's not another zombie one. It's kind of like that edge of where you're sort of leading into tech and sci-fi that I like. So I wish him the best. That's a good one. And then another final one of ones that we've played that I did want to look up and see what was going on with it. Tell me what's up with Grounded, Sema.
So Grounded is, well, yes, we did play this one. This is basically, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids survival game. So you play as a kid who's been shrunk, and you're in your own back garden, and you have to find, the ultimate thing you have to find is how to get back to your normal size and reunite with your real life. But in the meantime, there's things like spiders.
Yeah.
Giant spiders to give you jump scares.
Did they have an arachnophobia mode in this? I would have thought that they had to, but spiders are such a big part of this game. I'll look that up while you're talking.
Yeah. So I like this game. I like the look of it. There's you play it, one of, I think it was 3 or 4 different characters, one of those main characters. So it's you don't make your character up from scratch, but that's not a stopper for me. But I feel like this game probably does have something sort of like an ending. Like your goal is to figure out how to get yourself big again, and I think that happens, and that's sort of the end of the game. As opposed to like something like Enshrouded that I feel like you could play pretty much forever.
Right.
This game has kind of an ending, and there's probably not too much development going on with it now because of other projects, and also there's some speculation that there might be a Grounded 2 coming, but not in the 2025 time frame.
Yeah. Grounded's that example that I was alluding to, where it was developed as a game 4 years ago now by Obsidian as a complete game, and it came to market relatively complete, and it was done, and it was like a AAA, good quality, high quality, beginning to end, complete game. Are there battle passes? No. Is there a cash shop for cosmetics? No. It's a game. Play the game. And I think that's good and fine.
Yeah, there's a place for it, for sure.
Yeah. And there is an arachnophobia mode. So what does it look like? Oh, see, there's degrees of arachnophobia mode. There's
Oh,
a
nice.
sliding scale. So you can
Like I'm only a little afraid of spiders.
yeah, like, scale number 1, like, removes their legs. Number 2 removes their 2 to 3 removes the fangs. 3 to 4 turns them into like a little gumdrop. And 5, they're just like a little round spheres.
A little gumdrop that will still one-shot you.
Yes, it will kill you. Yeah, the spiders were
So,
terrifying.
like I saw one comment from a guy, and this is so true. It's like the scariest non-horror game
Yeah,
that you'll ever find. Because I mean,
exactly.
that spider, they they could come from anywhere.
Yeah.
But it has a lot going for it. It has mechanics, it has things to do. Everything works, I thought, really seamlessly.
Mhm.
I liked it.
Right. It was really well done and a really good game from start to finish and well polished as you would expect from Obsidian from start to finish. So I recommend playing it it's still worth playing. And I think it's very fine to have games that are done. Not every game
Yeah.
has to be. We don't need to demand from every studio that their game provides a million hours of unlimited content for the rest of my life, or it's not worth the $20 that you're going to pay for it.
Right.
Which there are those comments on every sort of the review of every game. Oh, this game is dead. They're not developing for this game anymore. Well, no, because it's a game. I go to the movies and I watch Lord of the Rings, and I don't go, oh well, when is Return of the King going to get an extended cut with 3 more hours of content? It's not. It's done. It's a movie. I mean,
This movie is
did
dead.
release an extended edition, but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, nobody bats an eye at paying $20 for 2 hours worth of good content at the movie theater, but for $20 on Steam, plenty of people will demand infinite replayability and infinite development and commitment by the studio to develop the game forever. Not everybody, obviously. This is just you just see those
Right.
comments once in a while. Okay, Sema. So that's a good one and a good example of a game that's done. So break time, sponsor segment. Sponsored by It's a Me and my studio. This podcast is brought to you by Garden and a Goat. Here's the goat, or a goat. This isn't our goat, but it is a goat. Garden and a Goat is the upcoming game from Contemplation Games. Boy, a ton of game development was going on the last couple days. Well, actually, the last couple weeks. I know we haven't showed a lot in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I did say I was going to put the weed out, didn't I? I'll put the weed in the Discord and show off the weed. I'll put a little video of the weed. Maybe put it on the feeds too. But we do have a couple other fun things to show. A lot of work was going on the way inventory works and the way the user interface works, converting it over to the common UI system in Unreal Engine. I did a ton of work over the Christmas break on that. A bunch of the way that the data structures are set for progression and spawning of animals, and where are they going to spawn, and when they spawn, how do you add affection to them so that you can make them resident in the garden. And so tons of that stuff is getting really, really close to sort of that core game loop being done, which is fun. But we do have new art and models coming in the next week or so. We will have new art coming of our next animal reveal. I leaked it a little bit to friends last night, but in fact, Saturn 3D is our 3D modeler in the chat room right now. It's gonna be leaked soon. We're gonna be showing some stuff off. It's awesome. The next animal is gonna be added to the garden real soon, and then another sort of kind of like main character is in design by Julia as well. So that you'll get to see those in the next week or two. So stay tuned. This podcast is also brought to you by Alea Act Est, our gaming community that Sema and I are part of and play with. That's aie-guild.org. Lots of fun stuff going on there, as we said. I think we've got a Star Wars The Old Republic fun night for PvP going on tonight. The Valheim server got spun up. All the major MMOs have tons of things going on. How's WoW going in AIE? You guys killing? Are you still ahead of the curve? Are you getting there?
Yeah, we did get ahead of the curve last Saturday night.
Oh,
It was
really?
one of the most awesome gaming moments for me of all time. But yes, so we have it. We have
You
it. I think
achieved it.
we're gonna go for it again this weekend, probably for if there was someone who missed last Saturday.
Oh, grats. Well, that's excellent.
Yeah,
That's really good to
yeah,
hear.
yeah. I mean, I would say at least 2 weeks before I thought we would. So it was fun.
Oh, that's really, really cool. And of course, this podcast is also brought to you by all of you out there watching right now on YouTube or Twitch, listening in all of the various places on Spotify, Apple, our MP3 feed directly, and everybody in the chat room right now. Really, really appreciate it. That's what makes this fun for us. So yes, that gets us to the second half, which is not going to be a half, but it'll probably be another 15, 20 minutes, where I did want to talk about some of the things coming in the future. And there's 3 big ones and then some honorable mentions of some other stuff. But the 3 big ones I've already sort of like alluded to, but this is in the future. Let me play my, what is our future? Yoda, tell us about the future.
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
Thank you, Yoda. That gave me a chance to cue up the video. Number 1 on the list of things coming in the future that I can't wait for, but may or may not even hit in 2025. And this one is really a mystery if it'll hit in 2025. We won't know until, I don't know, maybe even until the day it launches, is from Hello Games. It's called Light No Fire. The expectation is, again, it will probably be more of an exploration, adventure survival game, but it already looks to, and what they've showed off seems to have a lot of like building and crafting as part of it as well. It seems to be a multiplayer. It's definitely going to be multiplayer. They've already sort of alluded to that. Flying around on creatures, fighting boats, dragons. It looks amazing in that it's everything you would sort of expect from the evolution of kind of where they went with No Man's Sky, and then bringing all of that technology is sort of the way it's being described, and adventure and exploration onto a single planet. And that idea, and I believe them when they say that this is what they're going for and will achieve, is an Earth-sized planet. So if you can imagine the amount of exploration in a procedurally generated universe that gives us the trillions of possible planets, and your ability to go in No Man's Sky and fly off in a direction and very quickly and easily get to systems and planets that no one has ever seen, even though the game's been out for a decade. I believe that this will be big enough in scale that everyone can play on a single planet and still have that amount of exploration and procedurally generated world to go off in a direction and go places that nobody has ever been before, which is really exciting. And if anybody can do it, if anybody can pull that off, it is them. You can go back to some of the TED Talks on how they did it for No Man's Sky and did that procedural generation, putting that kind of intelligent design philosophy and science into the works for this as an evolution of what they can do next. That's just so exciting to me, technically and as a player of their games. But yeah, just watching this trailer over and over, and there's tons of videos out there. All the videos are just people, again, watching this trailer over and over and speculating on what's going to happen, because Hello Games is very tight-lipped. You'll get like an oblique comment here and there from the studio that may say something, once in a while, or another interview might happen where they just more talk about what they've already said. So anybody that purports to have, like I saw one YouTuber, I tried to, because I was researching for the show today, a YouTuber that had like leaked screenshots. And I don't even think they were real. Nothing that looked real to me. And he's like, I don't know if these are real or if this is AI generated or what, but It didn't even look like anything that we see in the trailer currently, so I don't know what what that was. Don't believe it until Sean Murray says, here it is, and Sean Murray probably won't say, here it is, until it's here.
Right. Right.
2025, if
Wait,
I had
he's
to...
gonna do his icon is going to be like a little planet Earth.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Do you think they could do that again? Pull it off where they like? Do you think they would do it? I think they would, but I don't know if they will. I think they would do it where they say, we're not gonna, we're not even gonna have a preview. We're not gonna announce it ahead of time. We're just gonna do what we do, and we're gonna just like throw it out and launch it, and it'll be launched someday, and we're not gonna even tell anybody ahead of time. They could do that, and they could pull it off as Hello Games. They've got the clout to do that. They've got the reach to do that. Other studios couldn't, because you need to like build up an audience. You need to have people ready for it. You need press to be ready for it, and you need marketing to be ready for it, and all of that kind of thing. Hello Games could do it, and I could see them doing it. Will they do it? I don't know. I don't know for sure. And then with that in mind, do we think this is going to come in 2025? I would say my bet would be a 40% chance that we're going to see this in 2025.
Oh, that's higher than I thought it would be.
I mean, if you look at this trailer, I don't, they're not really ones to do that, like smoke and mirrors. So there was a lot of work done.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But a game is, as we know, is not all its looks. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot more that has to go on.
Boy,
but
I'm learning more and more, learning more and more to that. Was I showing any of this?
Having said
during
that,
this? I don't think I was.
I'm gonna say yes for 2025.
Oh, your bet is 2025?
Yep.
Your prognostication?
Yep.
Okay. You've heard it. You heard it here. And Sean, you gotta Sema.
You gotta respect the Sema, Sean.
A Sema, estimate, a Sema guess to live up to. So you better do that. Next up in my top anticipated games of 2025 that I do hope come out, and this one I think has a better chance of coming out, and they keep saying that they will get it out in 2025, is Dune Awakening. Dune Awakening. This is in testing. People are playing this right now. I think it's in another like beta test going on right now. Not me. I didn't get invited. I don't know what the deal is there. I haven't talked to the developers when I was at PAX East last year. I said, "Hey, you gonna get me in?" And they said, "Yeah."
Who are you again?
They even wrote down my name on a piece of paper.
Post-it note.
This is a video that came out. It almost seems like either sponsorship or partnership or co-marketing with NVIDIA DLSS. That they like showed all of this. Look how many frames you get with DLSS. Doesn't this look pretty? So I don't know what they were doing there, but it does look really good. They do have a ton of dev streams that they continue to release where they're talking about the development. They're doing interviews with various people. So it's you can see a lot of behind the scenes. You can see how much done they have done, but as we know, it takes a lot to make a game. And this is a complicated game. They've got a bunch of moving parts. Now it's Funcom though, and they've done it before, and they've done it with other big games, and they know how to put out this kind of game. It goes way beyond a lot of what they've done before. But I'm confident that they can do it and get the game out there. And I'm also confident because of, they've got a license to live up to, and they've got marketing to achieve, and they've got a game that they want to have operating. I think they will get something out like early access in 2025. So I will be playing this. We'll catch back up on it when it gets closer and closer. I do have my concerns about the long-term gameplay. Is it going to be too PvP focused? For me in the end game and the long game, for me to really like the game? It could be, but there's so much to explore and see and feel in the game in both the early parts and just in how all the mechanics work that I know I'm going to spend a lot of time in it and appreciate what they do. So that's a fun one. And then number 3 of the things I am anticipating for 2025 is Subnautica 2. So the rumor is that we will be getting early access in 2025. The developers have said early access will come in 2025. There was a clarification in some recent conversations with the developers where people were saying, oh yeah, totally, we're totally getting it in early 2025. And they did come back and say, you said that word early. That's not, we didn't say early. So I don't think we'll be getting it in early 2025, but we will get early access in 2025. They have sort of committed to that. Could this slip to 2026? I think it's possible. But this one I would give an 85% chance of hitting early access in 2025. Subnautica 1, old game now, but still definitely worth playing. I think I played it last in 2023, maybe early 2024. Loved it. It's a great game. It's really, really fun, of that kind of survival exploration that's a little bit more almost like raft style, a little bit more, less like broad exploration and like going off and building in new zones and like exploring the world kind of thing, and more that building where you are, solving the problem of what you have on hand, building a little base potentially, but going off and bringing things back to your little base because you're trying to solve a problem. There's a story also associated with Subnautica, which you're trying to complete. So there is an end to Subnautica. Now, they did have an expansion called Below Zero, and you did get more onto the land. You were driving around with snowmobiles, and there was more to the story that was associated with, but your ship crashes and you're trying to like get yourself saved. And then there's like alien technology and you're trying to figure out what's going on with that and explore. There is exploration, but it's exploration to almost like points of interest and then coming back. It's not like your open sandbox world exploration where you just want to go and like journey forever and go find new things. But in that way, done very, very well. And it's a really fun game. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's also a really cool game if you modded it in VR. And I would love for it to be a first-class client in VR. And if they do that with Subnautica 2, that could be really, really interesting. Okay. So those are the sort of like the big rocks in terms of releases in 2025 that I'm most excited about. There are a series of games that are out now that I want to call honorable mentions and just mention that I will probably end up playing or may play in 2025 that are worth it. Top of that list is Icarus. And the reason I will be playing that in 2025 is because at the end of the year, a Steam sale, I bought Icarus and I've been meaning to play it now for about a month. It's installed on my PC. I just haven't gotten to launching it. It is well known as, again, sort of a little bit of a blend between sci-fi, tech, and just that sort of more primitive exploration. It's also mission-based in sort of a cool way. You progress by getting dumped into a biome or a zone and crashing on a planet, and then like finishing that like set of missions potentially, and then going to the next one. So it's not as, you can play it as just open world sandbox exploration, and that's a mode, or you can play it this mission mode. There's like 3 different modes to play. So it sounds cool. The other barrier that kept me from getting into Icarus too much in 2024 was it is expensive for the DLC. So you'd buy the base game, and then each of the DLCs you pay for as well. And when you try to put all of it together, say, oh, how do I catch up if I just want to get like, get all the DLC and everything that they have currently? It's like, oh, sure, you just add to cart, $500. It's not that, but it is a lot. And they don't, it's not like all packaged in or things like rolling into the base product. Now there's plenty to play, and the DLC may be totally worth it. And that's what I'm going to find out, but that's on my list. Another one on my list that gets put on a lot of people's list of really good survival games to play and try. Again, more sci-fi tech is Planet Crafter. Almost Subnautica-ish, but you crash on a planet and not in the water. And then you sort of like run around, a lot of first person view, and mine things and set stuff up. And you got survival, bars to worry about and that kind of thing as well. Gather materials, mine the materials. It's a little bit less polished than some of the other games on a tier level that there are some really good games to play. So that's why I want to get into it and try to potentially play it. It reminds me of the level of quality of the level of polish of a game like what was that other one? Fallen Skies. Fallen Skies looks a little bit this way, or like Empyrean, where it's a little bit lower tier graphics, a little bit lower poly, things snap together a little bit, a little bit less sort of less detailed as they could be in a lot of the other games. It's feels like a little bit less polished. Maybe I'm, sort of cutting it, not giving it as much credit as it deserves. But that doesn't mean that the gameplay isn't really, really fun. So this might be one to check out as well. And then the other four that I will mention that I have been meaning to jump into and try, have been on my list. Two definitely, and then two that we'll talk about separately, are the two that will potentially get back into and try finally are Sons of the Forest. And you can play Sons of the Forest without the gross zombies, the gross zombie cannibals, which is the thing that kind of turned me off to that one. And your hands you just like walk around covered in like blood and stuff all the time, but very well formed graphically, and it also very detailed building systems where you're picking up logs and you place the log. You're trying to like build this little log cabin, and you need to like cut down these logs and bring each log over and stack them up. It could sound annoying, but it also sounds very real in a way that could be very immersive. So I do want to try that one out. And the other one, because I do know people that play it. In fact, Nazrai has been asking to get people into this, and a lot of people really love it. But I don't know if I do, is Escape from Tarkov. The way Escape from Tarkov is really designed is almost more of an extraction shooter than a survival game, but it borders the survival genre as well, kind of like Rustish in that way. I don't know. I just don't get into the PvP aspects of these games, which leaves off a big chunk of the way a lot of these kind of survival worlds work. And maybe I'm missing out quite a bit, but there's an aspect of if you want to compete that you need to be dedicating time in ways that I just do not have available.
Or want to have available, maybe.
Right.
Even too. Yeah.
So Saturn in the chat room is saying it has a PvE mode, and I have heard them say that. So maybe I should get into it, and especially with Nazrai hosting, if he's going to host something and he's offered to like show people the ropes and get people into it, maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe we'll grab Corley and we'll go into Escape from Tarkov and check it out and finally get the lowdown there. And then the last two, which I never put on my list of survival games, which does a disservice to the main one, which is Minecraft. People will say, what's the top best of all time survival games? People name Minecraft in like the top 3, top 5.
Right.
I've played Minecraft. I played Minecraft back in the day when it was, when Minecraft was early. I played Minecraft before it was a Microsoft product. I played it when it became a Microsoft product. It's interesting in the way it is constructed and the technology, especially. I could just never get over the blocks and the way it looks. And that's not fair necessarily, because you can have a really good game inside of that. But I never really got into it from that perspective and never really wanted to go back to it. So sorry, Minecraft. I probably won't play you in 2025, but I should, and you deserve it, but I'm not. I won't. I don't know. I'm not fooling myself. I'm not going to go back and play more Minecraft. And then also in that vein is a Minecraft competitor that people talk about, that people will also now say is one of the best of all times, is a game called Vintage Story. And what Vintage Story is it's basically Minecraft. It's a Minecraft clone, although people will say it's not really a Minecraft clone. It goes way beyond. Okay, it's a Minecraft clone. Now it's got a bunch of other mechanics, and it does do a bunch of things in new and interesting ways. But if you look at it, it looks like Minecraft with a different skin on the blocks. But it's just a Minecraft. But it does do a bunch of things in new and interesting ways that fans of Vintage Story will tell you make it a superior, especially a superior survival game. So props to them, but this isn't one that I will play in 2025 either.
Yeah.
2 other honorable mentions, and just going to put the names out there for us to explore in the next couple months, maybe Sema, and maybe ones that we want to play together. Aloft. I believe Aloft just launched today, was just released. Looks really, really good stylized graphics, survival, building, exploration, with the hook being you're building on these sort of like floating islands that like float in the sky. And then as you build up your floating island, you can put like technology onto it, including like sails and motors, and start making your island propel itself around the world. So you can venture to new places and do new things. I don't know much more about it beyond that, but it looks really cool. And Astrolab Interactive, which is the developer, and Funcom, who's publishing it for them. Astrolab is good, and it looks like they've done something really cool here. And their you can pet the animals. They show multiple times of petting the animals, and they do a good petting animation on petting the animals in first-person view. So good job there. And the second one, which I think I caught in one of like the Game Awards trailer paloozas, is Atomfall. And Atomfall is like a retro future. Imagine the Britain in the early 1940s, and a nuclear bomb test goes bad, and now there's Britain has been like mutated from that atom bomb explosion. So a little bit of retro future. You're like in that world surviving of where that nuclear disaster left that area of Britain in tatters. So you get a little bit of like that scenes of British countryside. There's like the telephone booth that you recognize. There's a little bit of that style on the weapons and the outfits that you're wearing. So it's stylized in a very cool way. And then we'll see what it feels like to survive and build in this new world. Seem to have a good hook associated with it and look good. And last but not least, just to talk about and just to mention, because it's relevant to my top interests in things that I wish were coming out in 2025, but I have the least faith of it coming out in 2025. In fact, I don't even think it may come out in 2026, even though they claimed it would come out in 2022, is Arc 2. Arc 2, pluses and minuses to how excited I am. I wanted basically just the evolution of Arc with new technology. I wanted Arc brought into the modern game engines, and to like not have bugs in it, and to be all in Unreal 5.5 and all of that. That would be cool. But you said you saw my notes on this, Sema, and you saw a couple things which might be points of friction for me. What do you guess would be my points of friction?
Well, the Souls-like style.
Yes.
Also, the question about whether will it really be a survival game or some other game style?
Yes. So those
And also,
two things could
I
break
know
my
you
heart.
say you're okay with Vin Diesel, but I don't buy that.
You are right. I wish it wasn't Vin Diesel's face in the game. So he's it's
It
clearly they
It
put
does
Vin
it
Diesel
does
in.
kind of bop, gets you right back out again whenever you see him.
Right. It does. It takes you right out of the game because it's Vin Diesel. It's not, and Vin Diesel is playing an arc character that shows up in the lore, and even more so in Santiago. And the character's name is Santiago. So Vin Diesel is playing a character out of the lore. It's a clone of the character that's in this future planet, which you don't have in Arc today. It's a planet called Arat, and the Arati are another faction, which is going to be part of it. So they're humanoids, and those humanoids tame dinosaurs potentially. So you might be fighting them in that way, which could be interesting. But the couple other things that they said that you found right away, Sema, that sort of got the hairs on the back of my neck up are multiple times the developer has said, we want Souls-like combat. That's what we're going for. And there are a lot of definitions. A lot of people mean different things when they say that, for one. Is it more sort of like action-oriented combat where you're doing more sort of like blocking and you're playing as in first person or even third person, but you've got to like do the blocks and attacks and as you're fighting as a person? That's not the way Arc really works today. You can fight as a human, but you do most of your fighting and if by like taming up dinosaurs and having your dinosaurs do the fighting. You're either riding the dinosaurs or you're bringing like a pack of dinosaurs to the table. I would never like walk up with an axe and fight a T-Rex. There are ways to do that in the game, but that's not the fun way to do that is to get a bigger T-Rex and tame it and then go kill T-Rexes or get a pack of, tame up a pack of raptors and to go take down dinos that way. So I don't want it to be like a first person or a third person Souls-like where you're just running around with an axe, because that takes away from the whole idea of like taming up the dinos, which is such a fun part of it. And the second thing is the way they talk about it almost sounds like maybe it's just an RPG game. Maybe it's not a survival game, or maybe it's like like the Horizon games. There's a little bit of survival elements where you can like cook some food and like get materials for yourself and build yourself some weapons, but that's an RPG. And you're taming robot dinosaurs there to ride around, but it's totally an RPG. It's not a open world survival exploration game. So I don't know. I don't know what they mean by this. They also themselves may not know what they mean by this because they thought this was going to be out in 2022 and now it's 2025 and it's not coming out probably at least until end of 2026, if not 2027. So we shall see, or later, or if it ever comes out. So we'll see. We'll see where they're going with this. I wish just a straight up new Arc would come out, which we're kind of getting with the Arc remasters and the new maps. In fact, one of the roadmap things for Arc 1, Arc ASA, and the remasters is upgrades even to Unreal 5.5 in 2025. That's on the roadmap, I think, for spring, for the next map that they put out, which is great. But I wanted like all of the bugs and, the world and everything to be fixed up in next generation. So everything kind of like worked too. That would be really cool. Because too many things kind of like don't work and it puts other people off. Like I brought in Coralie and Lucy and Sema and we all played for a while and it was fun, but a lot of things just kind of don't work. And then people kind of get bored with things not working and it's easy for things to drop off that way. And I don't blame people because you really got to look past some of those bugs sometimes. But yeah, so we'll see. That's the furthest out. That's the last on my wish list for what I would hope would be coming in 2025. All right. We went pretty long, but again, a lot of fun things to talk about as is the genre I really like. But I think with that, we can be wrapped up for today.
Yes.
Join us for the rest of 2025 as these new things hit. We'll be doing dives into them. Maybe I'll be pulling Sema into some of these. Maybe we'll go play games like Aloft together or get new Overlords going in it, as long as I can take away time from game dev on the weekends to do some of it. But I'm sure I will, because as we said, all work and no play makes Max a dull boy. So that is it for today. All the feed subscribe links for everything we do are on newoverlords.com, and our videos up on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord, or go check out gardenandgoat.com and get into our Discord there for that game. And you can get to see the new animals that are coming out, and I'll show you the weeds. You can also follow on all the social networks while they last. If you were in the pre-show, you heard my rants about the social networks, but I still post our feeds there. So we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.